Today, I want to talk to you guys about being a living testimony. On Sunday, there was a girl who came. She didn't tell me she was coming or anything. And I think it was my husband. Ray came up to me and he was like, "There's a girl back there looking for you." And I thought it was one of the youth. I was like, "Oh, they can wait." He was like, "No, she needs to speak to you now. It's going to be embarrassing if I walk back there and you're not coming with me." I went back there and talked to her as I was leaving church. And she was like, I was just talking to her. I was like, "Hey, like, how are you doing? How did you hear about Abundant Life?" And she was like, "Well, I came because of you." And I was like, "What?" She was like, I came because of you. You invited one of our high school friends, and then she told me about it, and so I came because you were here." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so, honestly, I had a totally different message, but on the way here, it just sparked in my spirit, that people are watching, right? And you may not be aware of it, but they are. They're paying attention to your social media. They're paying attention to the way you act. They're paying attention to the way you talk to people. People are always watching. I always talk to the choir kids and tell them, you're a representation of ALC. You're a representation of U-Turn. And because people know the church you're attached to, they're going to be looking for a fault, right? And so, just so y'all know, it's not offering time, right? I'm not doing the offering message. I'm just, I just wanted to talk to you guys about being a living testimony and knowing that people are watching. And so if you guys want to go to Matthew 5:16, I got a few scriptures here. All right. Matthew 5:16, it says, I'm going to do this one. "In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." So this just talks about people are watching you. They're going to be watching the way you act, once again, the way you talk, the way you treat people. They're going to be watching your social media. People are always, if they're against you, they're always looking for some type of fault. And so how can you be a living testimony? How can you walk out your testimony, right? So let's go to Matthew 7. Yeah, we'll go to Matthew 7, starting in verse 17. Where is it? Okay. "A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions." So we're talking about how can I be a living testimony, right? So be fruit-bearing. You want to be fruit-bearing. What are the fruits of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self. You know it, right? So be fruit-bearing. That's one of the ways to be a living testimony. Number 2 is spread the good news. This is a command given to you after salvation. The good news, I don't remember what I was reading, and I don't know why it never clicked. But the good news isn't just, Jesus came down and died on the cross for us. Yes, we want to tell people that. But what is your testimony? What has God done for you? What did God's sacrifice do for you? That's what we want to tell people. It says it in Mark 16:15. It said, Jesus said to his followers, "Go everywhere in the world and tell the good news to everyone." Jesus said to his followers. If you're a follower of Christ, this is the command that you should be following. Go and spread the good news. Go tell people what Jesus' sacrifice did for you. Number 3, practice what you preach. Practice what you preach. James 1:22. We'll go there. I'm just going to read it off my phone. James 1:22. "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." So when you are reading the word and it's giving you a command, when you are hearing pastor or Elijah or whoever it may be ministering, or when you're even listening to a sermon or a podcast at home, you should take note of that. It's good to take notes because you can go back and be like, okay, what's something that I need to work on? What's something that, what's a word that God gave to the minister that I could use? Go back and get revelation of your own and, write down an action plan. How can I live this out? How can I live this word given to me out? And then 4 is remain the same behind closed doors. The truth always comes out. So just to recap, how can you be a living testimony? Be fruit-bearing, spread the good news, practice what you preach, and then remain the same behind closed doors. Luke 12, 2 through 3. Sorry. Luke 12, 2 through 3. I'll just read it right here. The time is coming when everything that is covered up will be revealed, and all that is secret will be made known to all. Whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered behind closed doors will be shouted from the housetops for all to hear. So the truth will be revealed, and that's why this is my 4th point, because, whatever fruit you're bearing behind closed doors, whatever you're telling people, and whatever you're preaching to people, you shouldn't be wearing that, or you shouldn't be talking about that. Number 1, make sure you know why you're saying it, right? Make sure you know why you're telling people not to cuss. Make sure you know why you're telling people not to dress a certain way, because it can come back to you. And if you don't know what you're talking about, it can be a bad representation of not only yourself, but your church and your youth ministry, but really your relationship with God. People aren't going to want to, if you're not being truthful, if you're not living out your truth, people aren't going to want to get saved. They're just going to say, well, you're living the same way I am, so what's the point of me getting saved? Show them that there's change. Show them that you're renewed. And then just to close out, just a little encouragement, I'm going to read 1 Peter 3, 15 through 16. Okay. Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. But do this in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear. Then if people speak against you, they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. So, like I said in the beginning, there are going to be people against you. There were people against Jesus. They spat on Jesus. They talked bad about him. They rejected him, But all of these things, living out your testimony, being fruit-bearing, spreading the good news, practicing what you preach, and remaining the same behind closed doors, it's going to come, there's going to be a harvest of that. There's going to be proof of what you've been doing, of what you've been saying, and what you've been telling people. It says it right here. They're going to be ashamed when they see that you're living a good and blessed life. I always think about that when I'm ministering to somebody or when I'm trying to get somebody saved. They reject me. That's okay. That's a choice of their own. But what's going to happen is they're going to continue to watch you. They're going to continue to watch your life and be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I should, get to know this Jesus, And so I just want to encourage you guys, just be aware of how you're living. Be aware of the things that you post. Be aware of the things that you say. Be aware of the things that you do, because people are watching. Amen?